So all these teams are set to roll out new offenses in 2021. So Ian, feel free to weigh in on any of those situations. But I was wondering, like, how heavily do you weigh these schemes and play callers when it comes to the weapons on those offenses for fantasy? Like, can a coach really drive a player's value, and is that kind of an under discussed topic in the fantasy community?
Yeah, I like this question. I pulled up an article I did before every season, just like, and how can play caller tendencies, help us find some fantasy football upside. So I was kind of looking back at what I was saying before the season started. And, sometimes we can overthink it. When there's a lot of player turnover, it's harder to, look at a coordinator and just say, oh, his wide receiver one from 2010 had X amount of targets, so this guy should have that. We just don't always know, because if you're a good coach, you make your scheme based on the talent of your players. You don't try to force players into your scheme. As we know, not every coach out there, really goes by that strategy. But generally, I think it's better used as a guide and sort of like a tiebreaker than something to completely hang your hat on. But a couple examples of, things I think we were able to pretty clearly see. Jonathan Taylor just having the potential committee problems. I mean, he got so lucky just in terms of Marlon Mack getting hurt in week one. The fact it continued to be as hard as it was for him to break out was, incredibly surprising after the Marlon Mack thing happened. But I was lower on Jonathan Taylor going into the year just because of what we've seen Frank Reich do. I mean, in 2015, he drafted a first-round running back from Wisconsin, Melvin Gordon, and proceeded to play Danny Woodhead over him for the entire year. And, same thing, with but you also look at a situation like Doug Peterson, who is another guy, him and Reich, worked together for plenty of years, where he hadn't had a committee. But you look at him with Miles Sanders. I'm sorry, he had only had committees. But you looked at last year at Miles Sanders, and the dude had freaking four highest single game snap rates from Doug Peterson. So, it's always like, hey, this has been a tendency, but when is that tendency going to break? So that's kind of the balance you got to find. But yeah, running back situations I think are great for it. And also sometimes, like Gary Kubiak and Dalvin Cook, I was pretty high on Adam Thielen, actually, because all the talk was about the running backs. And when you look at Gary Kubiak over the years, I mean, his wide receiver one was averaging, 130 plus targets, with a good 25-year sample size. So yeah, again, so something that I think is definitely good to pay attention to, but not necessarily overly freak out about. I mean, hey, I love everything the Cardinals are doing right now. Cliff Kingsbury spreading things out, running this breakneck pace. But hey, other than Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and Kenyon Drake, haven't exactly gotten too many other consistent fantasy guys out of it. So, we try to know everything we can about these guys, but I think at the end of the day, again, balance it with everything else. And we're just trying to project workload at the end of the day, because anytime we try to outsmart these dudes with talent, hey, we might win one every now and again. I did call out Cordero Patterson being a running back no fewer than 5 years ago. But for every one of those, there's a lot of other stuff that gets us in trouble. So again, we're trying to project volume, and I think paying attention to past coaching tendencies with the backfield distribution, maybe with the target share, with your number one or your slot receiver. Those things make sense. But again, it's just another piece of the puzzle.
Totally. And that's the perfect way to put it. Another piece of the puzzle. I like what you said about striking a balance, too. It's kind of the name of the game of fantasy. Like, you want to buy into these certain narratives, but you want to strike that balance. Because obviously it will make a difference if Joe Brady or Eric Bieniemy is the guy instead of Robert Saleh. That's going to make a difference, but you have to strike that balance. And I loved what you said about Kubiak there. That was a really great point. Like, you want to buy on the perception of the market at times as well, because those things jump the shark really quick.